Welcome back. Let's talk about LT1 timing chain covers and why they are unique to this particular motor and this engine family. Now, what I have here is two representations of the three timing chain covers that were produced by GM. This is what they call a vented style Opti timing chain cover. Then they have what they call a non-vented style, which has a smaller hole here because the Opti that is used in that particular application is non-vented and has a spline setup which does not require a big hole like this. And so they upgraded to the vented Opti-Spark, which then required the bigger hole, which this goes through. This pops through there, bolt onto there. Now what I wanted to get into the differences, or let's back up, the generations of the timing chain covers. 93 up until 94, they had the non-vented style timing chain cover, which I do not have here, but I will insert a picture. Then they came out with the updated version of that, which has the bigger opening for the vented Opti-Spark and the assembly, and I'll get into how that works differently than the other one. Then the third and final version has the magnetic pickup on here. Now if you do this style, this is for 97 only. They have a different wiring harness, all that kind of stuff, but you can use this on any of the engines if you want to upgrade, or use this as another sensor for later on projects. I heard that you can use the newer PCMs and use this sensor, run batch fire, so on and so forth. That's a whole nother video which I'll get into later on if I ever go that route. But common question number one: can I use a double roller timing chain on this particular engine? Technically, no. All I do for most of these street-driven, high-performance application, except full-out racing, is the single timing chain with a updated roller timing chain instead of the factory. They tend to stretch less, but they're pretty robust pieces as it is. Never really had a problem with them. Whatever. It is what it is. Now, they also have updated ones from GM High Performance, or Cloys makes them, that's like $500. I find it a waste of money. All you're doing is getting an updated chain. It's really nothing different in the actual sprockets and all that kind of stuff. So save your money, get an updated chain, use the stock gears, you're all set. Save half the price. Second thing is that if you do want to run a double roller timing chain, that means that you have to get rid of the factory driven water pump, which is dumped through the shaft and off of this gear over here. A little bit of grinding, a little bit of fitment of the inside of the cover, you can make it work. Or I think they have aftermarket covers now that you could buy, but they're super expensive and everything. And then you have to run an electric water pump, obviously. You can't run any of this. It's doable, it's been done, it can be done, but for the average Joe that just wants to put everything together and let it run for miles and miles and miles, this is the way to go. Now, depending on what you're doing, if you're converting from a 93 to 93, 94 to a 95, 96 cover or a 97 cover, and you want to change it and put the vented Opti-Spark, there's a couple things you got to consider on here. Number one, it requires a different timing gear on the top because the Opti-Spark is driven by the 3 cam bolts and the pin. It's a longer pin on the camshaft. So basically this type of thing that has a machine grooved inside of here, this has a pin that goes through that machine groove. But the key difference is the camshaft, which has it's gun drilled larger and the pin is longer. So you can't use a factory small block Chevy roller cam. You technically could, you can drill it out, chamfer it, depending on your skill set, but that's the main difference between the non-vented and the vented. So I'm going to break it down for you. This has a little pin here, goes into here, and the cam sits nice and flush into there. So then when it's bolted together, you have what I call the clover leaf here, where the bolts of the cam gear fit into, plus the pin, which is indicated by here, slides into the camshaft, and the whole thing is run like this. Give you a good example. So that's why you can't buy the cheaper roller cams that are non-LT1 or specifically drilled for the LT1s. That said. Now, the other things you're going to run into, depending on what you're doing, what type of cover you're running, and whether or not you're running these reluctor rings or not, is that GM in their infinite wisdom never keyed their hubs. And if you want to use this type of timing chain cover and utilize the newer style sensor or upgrade, whatever you guys are doing, is that the keyway is cut in half. It's not, doesn't use a regular keyway. So this is the factory 9394 keyway, which is cut so that and the reason why they do that is that so the crank hub can slide on and press up against the gear, because these are non-keyed. Now, keynote is that if you're trying to put this on here, and I hope this comes out, is that you need the extra part of the keyway, which then you need the full half moon keyway to make this work. So this will fit into here, which then slides onto here. And then you need a shorter hub. So if you're not using this, you could use a longer hub, but you to make sure that it does have the half moon key. Most of them will have that, 9394. And if you're upgrading, you got to pull this apart and you got to pick out that keyway out and put a new keyway in that's a full moon. Now, let's go a step further. So these come in various, depths for the type of timing chain cover, the accessories, and the type of car it came on. The B, which is the Impalas, the Corvettes, and obviously the F bodies. They all have a couple of different hubs that have different lengths or different depths inside to accommodate these types of differences within the timing chain covers. Hope that makes sense. Now, if you want to update to this, which is going on here like this, and then a keyed hub, which from the factory doesn't have it, then you have to put an additional half moon key in there to accommodate this. So if most people make the mistake, if they have a full keyed and they try to put one of these hubs on there, they wind up cracking the hub or breaking the hub. Some keynotes here on here of how all this stuff works. We'll get into the installation of this whole thing, how to put this particular seal on, what to do, and also how to put this little coupler on here, which then goes like so. A lot of people make a mistake putting this on, putting this together. So the next couple of videos I'll show you how to install it, tighten it, all that kind of good stuff. But I figured I'd just give a quick overview. I probably forgot a bunch of stuff, but just to give a show of what the differences of these timing chain covers are, and hope this helps somebody in the future. Have a nice day.